Everyone, welcome Lawrence Brownlee to Inside the Singer's Voice. Hey, Larry, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, Jeremiah. Good to be with you today.
Nice to have you here. So, tell me, where are you in the world right now?
I am currently in Chicago, Illinois. I just arrived here from Florida,
Okay.
which is one of the hotbeds of COVID right now. But thankfully, I live on the other opposite end of the state, closer to the northwest panhandle,
Okay.
Alabama. So Miami is about, I think, 10 hours away by car. So I'm not really, really close to the epicenter, but it's nice to escape, Florida for a few days just to prepare for something I'm doing up here.
Okay, lovely. So I want to get right into it because this is a conversation I've been dying to have with you. I met you, I don't even know how long ago I met you, probably 7 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
I can't remember exactly, but I remember that we did come into contact with each other in New York City. Yeah.
Yeah. I call you the reigning king of the high C.
I don't know if I deserve that.
Oh, come on.
Accolades, but
but before we talk about that, I want to talk about the beginning. Like, how did it start? When did you start singing? What was that journey for you at the beginning? And then we'll talk a little bit more as you go along.
Are you talking classical music or music in general?
I'm talking about music in general. When did you discover your voice?
Well, I grew up in a family. I come from a very strong church tradition. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a church called the Church of God in Christ. Mm-hmm. And my father directed the choir. My mother sang solos. I'm one of 6 kids. So music was always, always, always around us. And so in the beginning, I wasn't one who sang as much. Like many other people in my church, we flocked to playing instruments. So I started out playing a few things like the drum, the bass guitar, sat on the piano. There was a saying in our church that you get in where you fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Not, there one Sunday, you just jump on there and you'll learn,
Yeah.
So I came from that. But even as a young child, my mother said that sometimes I would be singing in my sleep. And she said one time I was singing Go Tell It on the Mountain. It was about 3:00 in the morning. She had to come to wake me up to stop me from singing because I was keeping all the rest of the kids. As I said, I'm one of 6. I think I said that. One of 6 kids.
Yes.
And she was like, you're going to wake everyone up. But music was in me. And my parents cultivated it. They supported it. I didn't know I would pursue it as a profession. Mm-hmm. But all through school, I had show choir and band and all kinds of things. That coupled with church and just having a continuous education, I call it, in music and in varying styles, is kind of like what set me on this road to pursue, to be, I guess, a musician for my life.
So when you started singing, what age would you say that you kind of found your voice or found your way, even in church? When did you kind of start doing solos, those kinds of things?
Well, my parents, for the lack of a better term, they forced me to sing when I was a kid. It was like, you're going to sing, kid.
The kids choir, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the kids choir, we called it the Sunshine Band. So
yeah, we had the same when I grew up.
Band, yeah. We had all those things. And so I even have pictures when I was probably 3 and 4 years old, just a part of the Sunshine Band singing. And I was a part of a group. But I think it was 12 years old is the first time that I ever was out front. And I sang a song from the Winans called Tomorrow. And I always had a high voice. And so I sang this song and I remember the response from the people in the church. And it was a large church. So it was kind of like a standing ovation. And it was just like, wow, I didn't expect it, but it startled me. And I actually was very nervous about singing. When I knew I had to sing in church, because my dad would tell me, you're going to sing in church next Sunday. That whole week I would have something in the pit of my stomach, just like fighting against that. I'm like, I didn't want to do it. But so it was 12 years old that I kind of, decided that I would be, singing out front. And as time went on, I became a little bit more comfortable with singing. But honestly, and I tell this all the time, honestly, I didn't become confident about singing until I was in high school. And I had a bunch of my buddies who told me that if you sing, the girls will think you're cute. So then I came out of my shell because I was always trying to serenade girls and stuff like that. But that's my musical background. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So now, when you were in high school, was it an arts-oriented school, or you just had a strong arts program? When did you get introduced to classical music?
Well, I grew up in a city called Youngstown, Ohio, which is right in between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. And at that time, when I was growing up, we had an amazing public school music program. And we had a choir, we had men's ensemble, we had band, we had a number of different things. And we also had programs for the district. And so every year they would put a big music festival that all the choirs from the city would come together and not compete, but perform together. But it became like a competition, who was the best one among schools. And that was the first half where every choir was featured. And then the second half was a mixed group that we all came together and performed together. So that was great for me. I'm a big advocate of people continuing music in schools and music programs because I think it's so essential.
Absolutely.
Studies have shown that science and math and all these other disciplines are so much better off, or people do so much better in these various disciplines when they have a musical background, because there's a lot of similarity to science and math with music.
Yes.
So it was a regular high school, but we had a tremendous music program that I am fortunate to have been a part of.
And so what was your first classical song that you sang? My
first classical song? Well, we sang in our choir. We had a very young teacher. When I was 14 years old, I think he was 23. So he had his finger on the pulse of like some current music. And so we had a varied repertoire or collection of songs we sang. So we sang everything from magical tunes to some classic Bach things, or even some Mozart stuff, I think. And then we sang Stevie Wonder, or we sang gospel stuff, or we sang stuff like some of these like inspirational choirs, gospel choirs, or the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. It was a big mixture of things. And so I sang classical in a group, started probably when I was 14 or 15 years old. But the first time I ever picked up a classical piece for myself of classical singing is when I was a senior in high school. And I picked up one of the songs from the 24 Italian Songs and Arias. And the song was Tu lo sai.
Okay.
That was my introduction into classical music. And I didn't know what I was doing, but, that was it.
So how did it feel with your voice when you took, you went from having this high voice and singing gospel music and all of these other things. And yes, you had exposure in the choirs to classical music. But when you sang it as a soloist, what changed about your voice? So what did you experience that you said, oh, this is something I can do?
Well, to be quite honest, when I first was presented with this piece, because I was singing and people understood that I had a high voice, so I was always being singled out for my voice. I approached classical music mocking what I thought an opera singer sounded like. And so what did it feel like? I'm not exactly sure, but I was just goofing around, I think, and people seemed to like it. And so as I'm doing all this stuff, people are like, oh my gosh, you have a great voice. And I'm like, are you serious? I actually was kidding. I wasn't serious. I mean, not that I took it just playing around, but I didn't really know. So it operated in a different space. It used different formants of my voice, we always talked about in the beginning, especially position of your voice and stuff like that. And I just remember just kind of trying to copy what I heard from my teacher. My first teacher was a tenor, similar to myself. And so that was helpful in the fact that I could kind of, I always seemed to have a keen ear, and I could just kind of pick up on what he wanted or what he was trying to get me to accomplish. So that was the very beginning of my vocal studies.
So at the beginning, you were more imitating, more than kind of understanding what you felt. It was more about what your ears told you.
Right, exactly, because I didn't know what to feel. And, and even if I could think back to what he was trying to tell me, I think he probably talked about relaxation or a lack of not having tension or these other things. But for me, I couldn't necessarily, accomplish that just by him saying it. And so when I could look at him and try to copy, because I think it was, especially that time, it was also visual as well. Seeing him and see how he breathed, and
Yeah.
did other things. It was helpful to me, and so I was essentially trying to copy what I was being told was good, healthy vocal technique.
So now, when you say you watched him breathe, that's a great one. What did you see him doing that you were able to take for yourself?
Well, what he would do is put my hand on his, stomach, or his, if you want to call it, diaphragm, or even like his back and stuff like that, and he would try to get me to understand how he was breathing, and so I could feel to try again to copy that. And so that's what I was seeing. I would see that when he breathed in, that he wasn't raising his shoulders, or I could see that he wasn't doing other things with his body, but his approach to breathing was real relaxation. And that was something that was helpful to me, because the minute I saw myself doing this or some of these things that he's not doing, I know that it's not correct. And so that was helpful for me.
Now, you went from high school, and then did you study voice in college?
I did. I actually thought I was going to pursue a career in law. And
Okay.
so I had aspirations of being a lawyer. Again, as I mentioned, one of 6 kids. I had 3 sisters older than me. And I was always very, very good at getting my way out of, getting myself out of precarious situations. And I was always pretty quick to divert something with my sisters. And so I thought, this is a good skill to have as a lawyer. And one sister was studying business, another one was studying nursing, and one was studying pre-med. And so I figured if I was a lawyer, that our family would be covered in some way. And but I had people even in high school and the beginning of my college studies who told me that you don't need to be anybody's lawyer. You were put on this earth to be an artist. And so I said, okay, let's go with that.
And so when you went to college, what were the things that you started to discover about your voice that, you had the bug in high school, but in college, now it becomes more refined, more regimented? What was the new information that you had discovered?
Well, I was being told things, and yes, more technique was coming into play, and trying to talking about the fact that your whole body essentially is your instrument, and you sing from that. And I had some teachers along the way that were athletes, and talked about again, as I mentioned before, relaxation, and a lot of them kind of a few of them drew parallels to tennis, and how even when you hit the tennis ball, you don't use a lot of force, but it's timing, it's efficiency, it's being in the right position, and how that is important when you come to singing as well. And so what did I learn in college? I learned the beginnings of trying to put my voice in a way that I could really understand what technique is. And technique is something, for me, I've always thought is something that you are always on the path to trying to master. And so technique is something that you can call on all the time, even when you're not well.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things I was like, okay, build a technique that you can rely on. And I've had teachers along the way who said, you want to make sure that your technique allows you to sing for the long haul, not just the short term.
That's correct.
Always that, just kind of making sure that you're always in control, and that your instrument or your voice is never beyond your capabilities.
So when you say that, because I love what you just said about being able to sing for the long haul, thinking about programming your voice for the long haul, I want to be more specific. What are the pieces to your technique that you feel have allowed you to sing the same way, whether you're sick, whether you're, whatever, nerves, whatever? What are the things that you call upon every time you prepare to open your mouth?
Well, I've had 4 teachers in my life. And I remember one teacher telling me that my voice is like this, that you have to lean on your voice sometimes, you have to lean on your technique. And this is the perfect marriage. The perfect marriage. Sometimes your technique's not working that day. You have to lean on your voice. The gift that God gave you, that you have a natural innate ability to sing. Sometimes that voice is not functioning, so that technique needs to be the thing that you lean on, knowing how to breathe, knowing how to warm up your voice, knowing how to never push your voice beyond its extremes. The capacity of your voice is what it is. And another teacher said we have to sing on the interest of our voice and not the principle. which means a lot of people will do damage to that voice and try to beat it into submission. And we never approached it that way. So it was always this idea that your voice is that something that you want to work in, in communion with, or, that you are in partnership in order to use it as well as possible.
Now, you can't skip over such a profound statement as interest versus principle. I use this statement with my students all the time. Yeah. What does interest singing mean to you, and what does principle singing mean to you?
Well, I think interest singing to me means that it's something that you can do over and over and over and over again. And some people are required to sing. I have several friends that are singing on Broadway, and they sing 8 shows a week. Mm-hmm. And these people sing so technically well that they can do it over and over and over and over again, months on end, because they understand how to use their voice. Even when they get sick, even when they are fatigued, they don't do anything that harms themselves in the short term. Principle singing is singing with the hot head and the cool heart instead of the cool head and the heart, in the warm heart. You have to make sure that you're never putting yourself in harm's way. So I think for me, it's just making sure that you are singing efficiently, and something that that you're not doing your voice, this thing that is so fragile, any type of harm. That's the difference between principle and interest singing for me.
So now, would you say that principle singing is muscular? Would you say that someone who has a muscular instrument is singing on their principle?
I think if you muscle your sound, you are singing on your principle.
Right. And so what happens is if you use your principle too much, it wears out and then you have nothing, right? Absolutely. And so the idea is to sing with interest, meaning that really what you're accessing is always singing on the breath, right? The breath is the main source of the sound. Is that a good way to talk about interest and principle?
Absolutely. That is absolutely a part of interest and principle. And for me, my teacher always says, you do more work down here as opposed to up here. And a lot of people are really trying to put what they do, so much of their singing is here, and they don't focus on this part. You can talk about the diaphragm, you can talk about the intercostal muscles, you can talk about your gut and your stomach or whatever. But it's really the work. I feel like support and breath are the foundation of singing. It doesn't matter what type of singing you do.
What does breath feel like to you when you inhale? One, are you inhaling through the nose? Are you breathing are you inhaling through the mouth? Where are you feeling your breath? Do you feel, you talked about this teacher who put your hands on his diaphragm or his side to feel expansion. But do you feel that you focus on that when you breathe, or you just breathe in a relaxed way to release the sound? Tell me about that part of it.
You should be able to breathe through the nose and through the mouth.
Okay.
I truly believe that, because my teacher had an exercise and she would say, smell the rose. And so she would take your fingers and you would smell the rose with your mouth closed all the way until you brought it out here. And that whole action of filling up of the air was smelling the rose. It wasn't something that was immediate, but you took the time and the capacity to take in air at that point is what you can then use. But she also said, when we breathe, it should be a mechanism that is natural, in the sense that we never breathe and we hold our breath, but we breathe and we use our breath.
That's correct.
Take it in and then it goes away from you. And so what do you say? What do I feel as far as air? I like to imagine my body in the sense that it is a balloon for me. That is just my technique, that this expansion happens everywhere. And then when I think about leaning on my support, I lightly lean, because you can't use vocal technique, especially with classical music, and I think it extends to everything. You can't use this idea of pushing everywhere in any way, shape, or form. You can't say pushing. So I always say you lightly lean on your support.
The appoggiatura.
The appoggiatura, which means lean.
Yes.
That's absolutely what I mean. That's what I think about when I sing.
Now, you have to explain what appoggia means. To lean upon the sound, what does that mean, Mr. Brownlee?
Well, appoggiatura means you lean on the air that you take in. You use your body in a way that is free from tension. Now, let's be clear. The act of singing is a physical act.
Sure.
And a lot of people think, that's not singing. So especially to make the sounds that we make in opera theaters, where we're never mic'd. We
Yeah.
don't have mic, and we have to have the capacity to sing to the last row. In the Metropolitan Opera, it has 4,000 seats. And there are other theaters in the world that have fewer seats, but worse acoustics. And so you have to be efficient in producing your sound. So the appoggiatura, how you lean on your sound and use your entire body, I like to say, free of tension, is what allows you to feel that you have your feet underneath you and your foundation. So the sound that you're producing can efficiently travel, not that you push it, but efficiently travel to the back rows of the highest balcony in the theater. My teacher says that our voices should be like birds that we allow to fly, but we should never force our bird in someone's face.
Do you find that your appoggia, or your lean upon the sound, is about you calling out the pitch, like calling to the back row? Would you say that you're sending it that way?
I'm allowing it to fly. And the thing is, what I have to do is I have to turn off my ears.
Ooh.
My ears, because a lot of people, you'll hear them singing, and especially in opera, you'll hear them singing like this to their ear, and they have to hear what they're producing, and or else they don't trust it. But for classical singing, opera, and any singing, I think it's really about trusting the sound, and the efficiency of of which you sing is what allows you to know that this feels right.
Yes,
Feels right. And so I don't feel the fact that the tensions here in my jaw or in my neck or in my shoulders or any of this, I don't feel that. I'm producing a sound that I can reproduce over and over and over again. Again, that's built on technique that I know is sufficient to travel to the back of the theater.
So you said something again. I love to talk. This is why this conversation is so important. You talked about feeling versus listening. I talk to clients all the time about the idea of stop listening to yourself, because listening, the sound will change when the room changes. If it fills up with people, if the orchestra is loud, if the person next to you is singing loudly, that somehow your sound is going to change. For you, you talked about feeling, which is something I speak about over and over again. What does it feel like when you are in the prime of your night, you're getting ready to sing, and you have set up your voice? What does it feel like? Where is it?
Well, my voice is it depends what I'm singing, but I always feel like my voice should be lined up from top to bottom. And so the more I hear it in my head, the less is out here. So there are some people that if they feel like they're doing something inside, they feel like they're doing something. But the less I feel like I'm doing something, the more I know that it's right. And of course, we have to record ourselves, and we have to trust ourselves, and to make sure that we're worrying about the things we can control. By that, I mean, you talked about the orchestras, or the orchestra or somebody else doing something, or the conductor being too loud with the orchestra or what have you. But the feeling of me producing this sound that I have learned and built on a foundation, it feels like something's right, and it feels like I'm putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, and it's something again that I can repeat over and over and over and over again.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Inside the Singer's Voice. If you're just joining us, I am with Lawrence Brownlee, opera star and incredible human being. We are talking technique and the life of a singer. So, you talked about putting one foot in front of the other, but I want to get more internal about it. You say that when you sing, where are you feeling your voice? Are you feeling your voice in the dome? Are you feeling it in the mask? Where do you feel your voice?
You know, a lot of people talk about technique, this chiaroscuro, this light dark, and so yeah, there is space in the back. There is space in the back of your mind, your back of your mouth, where you feel it in this, if you want to call it, in this direction. But you also have to feel that your voice is, frontal in the sense. People talk about the mask. That means feeling it up here and having the resonators or whatever, the formants of your physical makeup buzzing. Some people will use those words. One of my favorite singers of all time is Luciano Pavarotti.
Oh, yes.
Pavarotti, they said that his voice was so far forward and in the mask that he could look at his tone, and that he imagined that his voice was out here, never back. And the problem with thinking back sometimes is that it can become throaty,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to have the soft palate extension. You have to have the space in the back. So I feel the height in the back, but also I make sure that it is a sound that is also frontal.
How do you know that it's frontal?
Well, it's not putting it in the nose.
Good. Beautiful.
It's not putting it in the nose. And a lot of people think, yes, they're like, in the nose. That's not me, you know. But you know, my teacher, one of my teachers said, and the one who I've been with the longest, and she is my most probably influential teacher. Her name is Costanza Cucaro, and I've been with her now for probably 23 years or so.
Wonderful.
Since my days in graduate school. And she told me that our voices really are an extension of our speaking.
Beautiful.
And so if you think, a lot of times you're speaking, and you know the difference when you're speaking like this to when you're speaking in that place that really buzzes, and it buzzes. And I want to use that. That's where the extension to singing happens. And so that's how I know if I'm speaking correctly and I feel where that all that stuff is happening, then I know that's the same place that I want to sing in. And I've heard of singers, you know, especially opera singers, who didn't really warm up because they spent the day speaking in the mass or speaking in that position. So by the time they got on stage that evening, they were already warmed up and ready to go.
So again, in my mind, I have called you the king of the high C. Let's talk about your high C. Where is the high C in that voice, Mr. Brownlee? Where do you feel that note?
Oh gosh, a high C for me is connected to your body. It is connected to your body. And that, I mean, as we travel through the Passaggio in this area, and everybody has this changing Passaggio, E flat, E, F, F sharp, it just depends on the makeup of your voice. And some people will say there's even a first and second Passaggio that happens around B flat, B, C, closer to the high C.
For the tenor, yes.
For the tenor. Mm-hmm. So we know that with a tenor, we're dealing with a lot of head resonance.
Correct.
A lot of head resonance. But the difference between hearing someone who sounds like they're singing falsetto or someone who sounds like they're singing from their ankles up is that chest and body, body resonance as well. So my teachers have told me that we have to bring the head voice down and connect it.
Beautiful.
There is no separation between the two. And as we sing, we go down lower in the scale, that there is still a connectedness. So my high C buzzes up here and I feel it, there. It's because that's naturally the physiology of my voice is where that note sounds and rings.
Now, were you always a high C tenor?
I was always a high voice. That is my natural makeup. And, my teachers in the past have done a great job of letting me or teaching me how to access that efficiently.
Now, would you say that people confuse, so you have a very rich voice, but do you think that people confuse color with size of voice?
Often they do. And for me, in the beginning of my career, people wanted to put me in different repertoire because they heard the dark, warm, some people may say chocolate, or
velvety.
People have said that about the color of my voice, but the makeup of my voice is different. My voice has always been a voice that sits higher, that moves fairly easily. And so when I was coming to sing the repertoire that I am, I guess you might say that I'm known for singing, people were used to hearing a different sound. And so it was different. It was foreign to their ears. So they thought, no, that's not the right repertoire for you. You should be singing other stuff, which wasn't right for me. And I think people do oftentimes associate the color of your voice with the size, the robustness, or the virility sometimes of your voice.
So you are singing and you're talking about bel canto, which is mostly what you sing, Rossini and Donizetti and these kinds of composers. Now, you grew up in the church where we have lots of riffing and lots of vocalization and ornamentation that the world has come to love. Did you find that you were doing that before the classical music and it helped you in learning the classical ornamentation?
Well, that absolutely informed what I'm doing now as a classical singer. And early on, before I picked up Rossini, I actually was singing some other heavier things because I wasn't exactly sure of what type of tenor I was. Again, I didn't come from the tradition of singing classical music. I didn't know who Puccini was. I didn't know who Verdi was. And I remember when I was coming out of high school was right about the time that the Three Tenors CD was coming out.
Uh-huh.
I got a chance to know that CD very well. And so I was copying those people, Pavarotti and Carreras and Domingo. And so they were just tenors. I didn't realize that there were different types of tenors per se.
Sure.
And I remember doing a competition in which I was fortunate to win, and I was singing Puccini. And there was a lady who approached my teacher and I. It wasn't a competition just for my school, but a regional competition. There's an organization called NATS, National Association of Teachers of Singers, and I'm sure all of you know that. And so this was a regional competition that happened in Michigan. And so I went to school in Indiana, and I remember going to this, winning that category, the one I was in, and winning the overall award, singing Che Gela la Manina from La Boheme.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a teacher who approached me and she said, "You are a wonderful, magnificent talent, but your repertoire isn't right for you. So you need to find what it is you should sing." And it was a woman of color, a Black lady. And I don't know who that was. I wish I knew who she was so I could
Thank her.
Yeah, but but it was the beginning of me kind of finding out what it is I should sing. So I went back to school after winning that competition, and my teacher, a guy by the name of Fritz Robertson, he said, "I want you to try to sing this." So he gave me the music of Rossini, Barber of Seville.
Mm-hmm.
So I go away for a week or a week and a half, 2 weeks, and I bring it back into my lesson. And I'm not really excited about it. But I remember I was singing through the first few bars of it, and my voice moved in a way freely as it had done in church before, with all the riffing and the running and stuff like that.
Yes.
It moved so easily that he was like, "You know what? This is what you were born to sing." And that was the beginning of my pursuit of bel canto music.
Wonderful. What a great opportunity to explore. That's what schooling is all about.
Yeah.
I think, and not being afraid to take a chance, because so many times people have this idea, and then we also have this idea of ourselves, and then you discover the right thing. I think that's wonderful. Let me ask you this. What do you love about your voice?
Nothing. No,
oh, please.
No. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't like to listen to myself sing. But one of the things someone said to me a long time ago is that anything you do, you have to do it your own way. You have to make it for you. And any of these operas that I sing and any of these roles I sing, I always try to do it in my own way. Let's understand already that the composers actually wrote notes and music and beats that I have to line up with, but I have to make sure that it is sung from the heart. And I sing that all the time. If you go back to my upbringing as a church and gospel singer, you sing from the heart.
Yes.
You sing from the heart. You sing with passion. And the thing that has been important for me is that, as I said before, my teacher, she told me you have to harness that and be smart about how you use it. Mm-hmm. But that's what I mean by singing with your heart, but with a cool head. Mm-hmm. If you just let the heart take over, you'll do all kinds of stuff because your head's not in the game.
That's right.
Make sure this thing that's sitting on your shoulders is in tune with your heart, so you don't let this get out of control and take over.
Is there anything you wish you could do better?
Well, there are a lot of things, and I think we have, I'm all about fulfilling what our natural innate ability will be and maturing that. And so I don't think that's limitless. I think that there is a limit on what you can do vocally. There's some people, they're like, I just want to sing that high C. They may never be able to sing the high C in a way that others can.
Right.
What I've always felt in my life is that you have to maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. So are there things that I can do better? I'm sure I can, and I'm always on the path to trying to perfect who I am as a singer. But I also realize that more than anything, it's trying to make the things I can do as well as I can do, and think about that rather than just thinking, what I know that my voice will do to try to do that to the fullest rather than doing something that, I can't dunk a basketball because I'm only 5'6", and so I understand that. But there are other things that I can do, and then I focus more so on those things I can do, and that's the same thing with singing.
What was your first career break?
My first career break, for the career, probably is when I was one of the was awarded as a winner of the Metropolitan Opera auditions in 2001. So that's 19 years ago. And so that competition for opera singers is the most, well, I would say now, one of the most, then it used to be absolutely without a doubt, the most high profile competition in the world. But you also have competitions now like Operalia and Singer of the World that are similar to the Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions, but it's highly visible. Anybody is there. They get a chance to see who are the future stars in opera. And when I was discovered there, I was pursued by a manager, and a lot of doors started opening for me. But it was a highly visible, high profile competition that I was fortunate to win. And that was in 2001.
And have you had any mentors in your journey?
Yes, I've had many mentors, and I'm one of these people that you have to take from everyone that can enrich or enhance your life. And so a lot of people, you have to be smart first. You have to be smart. And my father told me a long time ago, he said, we have to be like filters. A lot of times we have to take all the information in, and you filter out what's not useful to you. And there are a lot of people who will line up to tell you all kinds of stuff. And you can't go with just, everything you hear. There is a lot of trust in pursuing, and working on your voice and your teacher relationship. And I know you have students that you have to really strengthen this teacher-student relationship, because it's important that you guys are working towards the same goal. And a lot of times when they can't see it, it's important for you to keep them on focus so they can realize it. And almost always they come back to you and say, I didn't see it, or something to that effect. I didn't see it, but now I understand. So there's a lot of trust. But a filter in the sense that, you have to be willing to hear information. Now, I know some singers that do this and they don't want to hear from anyone because they think they have it. And that's fine. But a lot of people have been mentors for me that I've taken information from various people who I respect and who I've seen the fruit of their labor and their discipline, that so many people have impacted my life in a positive way. And so I consider them mentors, even people like Placido Domingo and George Shirley and all my teachers. And so there have been many people that have positively enriched my life.
Now, you sing across the world. You sung on all the major stages at this point. Would you say in your journey of watching singers from the past and current singers, do you find that people are singing differently now than they used to sing?
Well, I think, because I wasn't there back in the day, but I listened to singers of the past. I'm a big YouTube guy where I watch people like, Caruso, and not Caruso, but Delmonico and Pavarotti when he was young. Of course, people like Richard Tucker, Alfred Krauss, all these singers that, I admired. And there was an era in singing that we call the Park and Bark era, where these people would just stand on stage and they would sing. So they were technically focused, maybe not so much musically, even though they were tremendous artists, they would just get on the stage, stand in one spot and sing. Pavarotti said when he was starting to learn, I think for the first year and a half, he never sang a song or aria because he was always working on exercises to try to get his voice lined up and in the right place. And then eventually he graduated to songs. Eventually he graduated to arias, and then eventually he graduated to operas. And so there's a process that happened. We are in a culture today that we don't have that much time. We don't want to wait that long. So we're microwave. I want to sing microwave. I want to sing Wagner. I know I'm 18 years old. But I want to sing the most difficult, challenging thing because I'm smart enough to do it. And so Is there a difference? I think yes. I think a lot of times people now don't take the time to really set their voices up, because all the voices I mentioned before, they sang for 30, 40 years until they died.
Yeah.
A lot of the singers we know today, they sing for 5, 6, 7 years and they're done. So
Burnout.
I think it is, people focus so much more on their technique in a way that we don't necessarily always do now.
Now, let's get back to your voice. You, of course, again, traveling so much, et cetera, et cetera. Do you find that AC bothers your voice? Are there things that kind of impede upon you being at your best?
Well, I am wildly bothered by cigarette smoke. It bothers me. It's one of those things that I've even gone to the doctor saying, is there anything to give me that you can give me that would help me with that? And he said, no, you just have to be away from it. Some people are sensitive.
Yeah.
I have many colleagues, especially the Italians, who absolutely deplore air conditioning.
Yes.
It is the worst thing. It is, but they don't even have it in their houses in their normal lives because it's just too much. They thrive in hot, tropic, sticky weather. I'm not that guy.
Not that guy. Okay.
I cannot do it. I mean, if I'm in a room that doesn't have AC, I can't sleep. That's that's just me. So for me, air conditioning for me has never ever been a problem. I respect the fact that it is a problem for some people, and many of the great divas of the past, and even some of them today who think they're great, they'll come into an opera house and say, turn the air conditioner off. And they don't quite get their way like they used to in the past. But me as a colleague trying to be understanding, if they can, if there's a compromise to be made, I'm definitely in for that. But yeah, I'm not affected by that. But cigarette smoke is the thing that really just does a number on me.
What does an open throat mean to you?
An open throat, to me, it means that nothing, well, you're working, but nothing has to be done. No alterations have to happen for you to be able to go from top to bottom of your voice. That's an open throat.
Wonderful.
And some people, they think it's some type of, opening that's this way. And it is really allowing your voice to be, again, as my teacher says, lined up from top to bottom. And so one of the things my teacher talks about is overly singing too fat in the lower and the middle of your voice, which means when you want to try to access the top, trying to go through that narrow area that we call the Passaggio,
yes,
not easy to do.
No.
And then you sound like you have 2 or 3 different voices.
Ooh.
Find the voice up from top to bottom, and it is uniform. You never have to, that's the open throat. That's the idea that, you have this, the transitions that you have to make in your voice are easy to make because you are fluid from top to bottom.
So how did you learn this fluidity of alignment? Was this through scales?
Yeah, it was through scales. It was from exercises, a lot of times coming from the top going down, and this could be like falsetto or, using oo vowels or o vowels, narrow vowels instead of it would be ooh.
Would you say that ooh is the master vowel?
It's funny because I'm a great fan of Alfredo Kraus. And his vowel for him was eh. Something about eh worked for him. And so one of the things that my teacher talks about is vocal, like timbre matching. And so she said, she'll ask you, what is your best vowel that sounds for you, for your physical makeup, who you are as a singer. And again, I'm talking about classical music. And then that's the vowel that you operate on. I've heard her say, sing this note. And I want you to sing, as she says, always sing on the breath. Sing that the breath goes like a conveyor belt, that your voice goes away from you. Instead of, we never do this with our voice, but our voice has this going away type action. So she'll say, sing an ah vowel, on the breath away from you. And I'll sing it. She's like, there's a better vowel for you. What is your vowel? Ah, o, e, eh, o, eh. Okay. We want to find that place that the voice really works right, correctly. And then we want to liken every sound we make to that position. And so that's what I mean by timbre matching and trying to get to this idea I know this is my best vowel. How can I make what I need to sing on this word as close to that sound that is unencumbered, that is easy, free of tension on the breath as possible?
Yeah, I like to tell singers that every singer has a vowel.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find that vowel, it will lend, your voice will lend itself to whatever you want it to do, because that vowel has set itself in your body so well.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. When you inhale, is your throat round or square?
Oh gosh, I haven't thought about it. I actually don't know. It's interesting. Is my throat round or square? I don't know. I can tell you.
No, that's fine. There's no magic answer.
Yeah.
Do you find that when you sing that your teeth also help you when you sing?
Yeah, I do. And for me, one of the things, I think about all the time is that I know that I naturally have certain things that happen when I sing. Some people may call it an Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I'm always thinking about is this book that my teacher gave me. And she said, at a certain point, you have to know your voice well enough that you can teach yourself. If you can follow all these exercises that I've given you in your book, when you're on the road, when you're somewhere else, if you get in a crisis, you consult that book. And if you can't do even one of the exercises on this book, you need to come see me. But while you can do all of these exercises the way I taught you, then you're good. You're in shape. You're ready to go. And so when I apply that type of, attitude or practice or practical application of what's in that book, those are the things that I'm thinking about when I sing, and that allows me to kind of like operate in this idea of good production of sound and good placement and all these other things as well. So that book keeps me on track, and it lets me know that I'm doing okay.
Do you warm up every day?
Not every day, not every day, and now, of course, with COVID, none of us are really warming up so much.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting when I know that I have some concrete operas that are coming up, because everything's been canceled. I was supposed to be in London in Covent Garden in October. That was canceled the other day. And
oh, yeah.
Back at the Met in December, and that's canceled. So when you have to go to rehearsals and sing every day, you probably don't warm up so much because you don't want to. We understand that our voices, they are resilient, but they also are very fragile.
Rest. It needs rest.
It needs rest. And so if you know your body, if you know your instrument, you don't have to beat your voice into submission. So every day, do you have to warm up? No, but I make sure that I'm not doing anything that's counterproductive either with my voice. And so it's just having a really good awareness of your voice's, the capability or the potential of your voice.
What are your go-to scales?
Oh my gosh. My go-to scales, I do probably about 5 or 6 scales.
Mm-hmm.
The first one I do is, I guess what I normally start with is Io, what? Io, mame, mi, mo, la, le, li, lo, lo. That's it. And I go up the scale. Io, mame, mi, mo, la, le, li, lo, lo.
What is the purpose of it?
Because we want to feel that the voice is buzzing in the right place. We want to make sure that the voice is connected to your support, and also that that there's so much relaxation up here. One of the things I was saying before about knowing my Achilles heel, I understand that I had to work the tension out of my sound. And so that's why I have to remind myself over and over and over again that relaxation is the most important thing. So when I do this, and I don't feel tension, then I know that I'm good.
So are you talking about a relaxed inhalation and a relaxed exhalation?
Yes, absolutely.
When you do this exercise of I-A-E-O-U, are you talking about vowel alignment? Are you aligning your vowels in that exercise as well?
Absolutely. Timbre matching and vowel alignment and being in the same place. My teacher talks about singing from north to south and not east to west. East to west. We're like, I here realize and doing as much work here and doing more of the work with your support.
Tell me another exercise that you use.
I go. Well, when we talked about kind of going through the Passaggio, we go and if I know if I'm doing something low and I can't access that easily, then something's not right. Am I singing too fat in the middle or whatever? And to make sure everything is lined up. That it never goes back as I'm coming down. And that's what happens a lot of times if you're not a lower voice. You want to sound more virile when you go low. So adding weight and pressure. But no, again, this idea of looking at your tone in front of you.
Beautiful. Have you ever had a vocal crisis?
I've had some difficult vocal times, and actually as recently as the beginning of this year. And we all deal with allergies and reflux and other things like that. And so I dealt with some reflux issues where it was very difficult for me to sing. And I had to sing a few performances where I felt that I was about at 50% of my vocal capacity. And that was difficult. But again, I started those days deliberately thinking about being an efficient singer and being able to get through this performance. And I'm not at my best. I know this. I woke up thinking I'm not at my best, but I'm going to treat this whole day as a warm up. And I lightly did exercises throughout the day to make sure I was taking care of my voice like it was a precious child. And by the time I got on stage, I knew how to be economical. I knew what the snares and things that could come up in the opera that perhaps I would normally sing because I was feeling a lot better. I didn't do those things. And, by the time I got through it, a lot of people didn't even notice that I'd had some difficulties in that night. And, sometimes, I would want the theater to make an announcement before I came out, but they never wanted to. And they were like, people can't tell because you sound like you. And so, yes, vocal crises happen all the time to any singer and all of the best singers in the world. And I have, friends in opera who sing at the absolute highest level, and all of them have had vocal crises, and you'd never know it because they are so dialed into their technique.
Beautiful. So let's. What is the greatest lesson you've learned as a singer?
The greatest lesson that I've learned as a singer is when I go on stage, I always go on stage knowing what I could do, not hoping what I can do. A very good friend of mine said before, when you sing, you have to worry about the process, not the result. Because if you get too carried away in the result, you'll start mucking up the process. And if you know the process works for you, you know that, again, putting one foot in front of the other, using your breath and getting the tension out and whatever your pitfalls or hurdles are in you producing this sound, if you can be in control of that and to reproduce this thing that puts you in a good position to know that you're at your best, that's what you need to do. So even as I go on stage and people ask me all the time, you're singing at this theater, or aren't you nervous, or what are you going to do in front of all those people? I go on stage with a fair amount of confidence, knowing that I'm doing something that I should be doing. And that is in no way, shape, or form arrogance at all. But it's confidence on a technique that I feel that I have solidified and known how to build for many years.
I have a couple of words I just want to throw at you, and I want you to give me your one-word answer. Onset.
Breath.
Passaggio.
Narrowing.
Mixed voice.
Body.
Nerves.
Non-existent.
Oh, so you don't deal with nerves.
I don't get nervous.
Wonderful.
You know, and this
What was the clue to that? What was the? How did you make that happen?
years ago. Look, there is nervous energy that you have. No one can deny that. There is nervous energy. But as a singer, you have to know how to channel those things. And anything that you want to be good at, you have to practice it over and over and over and over again. So anytime I step on stage, I go with a knowing that I've done this countless times. And even years ago, I remember doing a competition and I was nervous. And then I had this epiphany, something that came over me that was like, why are you nervous? People come to the theater to be entertained. People come to be uplifted. You being nervous is going to be in the way of them getting their entertainment or getting their payoff or the very reason that they came to the theater. But so why don't you, Larry, why don't you get out the way so that the music can speak? And this was at the finals backstage of a competition I was doing. And then I had this peace that I'd never really felt before, you know, especially for performing, that I was like, I know that I'm enough. I know that I'm here not by happenstance, but because I should be here. So let me go and do what I know that I have spent countless hours preparing and trying to solidify and trying to perfect. I don't think I'm a perfect singer, but I'm always on the path of perfection. But perfection for me is not quantifiable. It's about trying to create special moments. And so I'm not looking for a perfect performance, but I'm looking to, a lot of times in trying to pursue something that's special, you'll have a pretty good performance. So nerves for me in any of these important debuts or things I've had to do before, there's a confidence that I have that causes me not to be nervous.
That is so incredible. And I think that's going to help so many people, because people are literally paralyzed with anxiety and nerve and fear before they get on stage. But I think when you change your intention about what's to happen on stage, it will empower you to be your best in that moment, because you've also prepared, right? There's a preparation that has gone on before this, right? It's not winging it, but it has really been about your preparation, which has given you that confidence. What are you listening to right now?
Oh gosh, my musical tastes are everything I listen to classical music, I listen to opera and art song, but I grew up in a gospel tradition, and so I mean, I'm a huge fan. I'm in Chicago right now. I'm a huge fan of Ricky Dillard. I was a huge fan of James Hall and Milton Brunson when I was growing up. I was a fanatic for commissioned and
yes, me too.
Growing up, just absolutely crazy. Not so much the Winans, to be quite honest.
No, but commission. It was all about commission.
Commission and Take Six for me. I was just like, but I like everything from Mel Torme, Ella Fitzgerald. These are two of my favorite singers in the world. I was a big fan of Kim Burrell back in the day when she first came out. I was just like, who can do that?
Yeah.
So I have a diverse repertoire list, things in my iPod or iPad now, not anymore, iPod. Anything from, I mean, I don't listen to bluegrass, but even some classic rock. So all of these things inform who I am as a singer, and I appreciate many, many different styles.
Would you say that Fred Hammond could have been an opera singer?
Maybe. I think maybe he could have. He has a natural tenor voice. Big fan of Fred, of course, coming from commission.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, Radical for Christ, and big fan of John P. Key. It was a big
John P. Key.
Hezekiah Walker, Star Lawrence. I mean, I was really a gospel.
You were a gospel head.
I was a gospel head. It was like nothing could come out and I didn't know who it was. I was like, that's, XYZ, but loved gospel. That was the foundation.
So in an age where people are sharing so much, what do you choose to keep for yourself?
I don't think so much about keeping anything for myself. I'm always trying to be inspired. I'm always trying to learn and grow. And I believe in paying it forward. I work with a lot of young singers who ask me for advice. And I always think that the way that you even build your legacy is what you do for others. And so a lot of times I think it's good to give it away, because hopefully there is an unending supply of inspiration that's inside me. I wake up sometimes, you think about singers or writers, composers rather, or librettists or writers, authors who just sometimes they wake up and they just have so much, they're like, they have to put pen to pad because they have something to say. And whenever I lose that inspiration, then I'll stop doing what I'm doing. But I wake up inspired to try to share, to try to give. And what do I keep for myself? I mean, there are things I probably keep for myself, but I also think it's important to just give.
My dad said to me, if you want to change the world, educate people.
Mm-hmm.
Giving.
Yeah.
Giving. And I have one more question for you. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for being so generous today. And this is a gift. There's a gift and curse to the COVID moment, right? Because this may not have happened had our lives been continuing just because we're so busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the opportunity for us to share and give to people in this moment. My last question to you is, years from now, you've made your mark. You reflect over your life and your career. What would you like people to say about Lawrence Brownlee?
Gosh, that's a good question. I want people to say that I had respect for others. I served the music. I tried to be a vessel for positivity, bringing people together. That is what my life is based around now that, I've been a singer for a lot of years. I'm working in different capacities. Yes, I'm still an artist, but I'm working with different companies and different initiatives to try to expand and grow the audiences and make them more diverse and make people appreciate the arts. And so I want people to think about me that I was a person that tried to bring people together in a way that was positive.
Beautiful. Do you have a moment to answer a couple of questions?
Sure.
From fans.
Sure.
So someone asked, Nicholas Ryan Gant, who's a wonderful singer, if you don't know him, he says, do you think it's possible to be dope at both classical and gospel singing?
I know some people that are. And there are probably some people that will fight me on this. But I think the difference between the two is really stylistically. And a lot of times when I'll try to sing gospel like I used to back in the day with all of the, singing all of the riffs and runs that Commission sang and Mint Condition, Stokely from Mint Condition.
Yeah, great singer.
And this is someone who really knew how to use this instrument extremely well. I feel like I'm outside. I'm out of the practice of doing it. I'm out of the practice. So my ears and my mind is not necessarily lined up. So I'm grasping for straws.
Yeah.
If you stay in that discipline, you have it there to call upon all the time. And so I don't have that close relationship to gospel anymore as I used to.
Right.
It's not something that I practice. But I know that I would have the ability if you want to call it shedding or what have you, or just kind of getting your mind back wrapped around those tonalities, those scales and stuff like that. I believe that you can be equally dope at opera and pop or gospel. I have friends who do it and do both of them extremely well. So those people are the examples of that.
Beautiful. Well, that's the only question that I got. Thank you guys for asking questions. Thank you for joining Lawrence Brownlee and myself today. It has been a real honor. You are watching Inside the Singer's Voice, and my guest today was Lawrence Brownlee. I wish you all the best, brother. I pray that you have continued success. I have seen God elevate your platform, and it is an honor to know you. And thank you for your generosity again today.
Thank you for having me today, and it was nice to spend time with you, Jeremiah.
Same here. Take care.
Take care.
Safe travels. Bye.
Thank you.
You guys, thank you for joining me today. I am so grateful that you got to experience my conversation with Lawrence Brownlee. He's a fantastic artist and a very generous man, and I'm such a fan of his gift and his humanity. And I hope you will join us again next Monday. Join us at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Inside the Singer's Voice, where I can't tell you who the guest will be because it's a surprise, but you have to come back. Thank you for sharing. Continue to share. And also make sure that you subscribe to the Inside the Singer's Voice YouTube channel, as well as you can share these broadcasts. And also make sure you like Inside the Singer's Voice on Facebook, as well as Jeremiah Abiah Music. And I'll see you all soon. God bless.